Imagine a world where power does not shout, where control does not beg, where influence does not plead. Some people move through life with an almost supernatural command over the dynamics around them. They do not demand attention, they withdraw it. They do not seek validation, they become indifferent to it. And in that indifference, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to panic. What if you could wield this same power? What if the moment you stopped reacting, stopped pleading, stopped proving yourself, the entire game shifted? Machiavelli understood this truth centuries ago. The less you care, the more others scramble to regain what they once took for granted. This is not manipulation, it is strategy. It is the art of revealing how little power others truly have over you. Think of the last time someone tried to provoke you. The moment you refused to engage, their frustration grew. Why? Because your silence exposed their dependence on your reaction. Your indifference revealed their need for control. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So ask yourself, who panics when you stop caring? Who grows desperate when you become untouchable?" The answer will show you who has been feeding on your energy all along. You have been conditioned to believe that your worth lies in your availability, that love is earned through sacrifice, respect through endless compromise. But here is the truth they never taught you. The more you give, the less you are valued. The more you explain, the less you are heard. The more you beg for connection, the more you are ignored. This is not cruelty, it is human nature. People do not cherish what is always there. They cherish what they fear losing. So what happens when you stop fearing their absence? When you stop begging for their attention? That is when the tables turn. That is when they realize, perhaps for the first time, that you were never the needy one. They were. This is not about becoming cold or heartless. It is about becoming untouchable in the right ways. It is about recognizing that your energy is finite and not everyone deserves access to it. The moment you withdraw, two things happen. The wrong people reveal themselves, and the right people step forward. But here is the question that will define your next chapter. How long will you let others dictate your emotional currency? How long will you perform for those who do not even applaud? Consider the last time you said no without explanation. The silence that followed was uncomfortable, wasn't it? That discomfort was not yours, it was theirs. It was the sound of a system collapsing, the system that relied on your compliance. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But fear is not the goal here. The goal is respect, and respect is not given. It is commanded. Think of a lion. It does not beg the hyenas to stop circling. It does not negotiate with the wind. It simply exists, unshaken, and the world adjusts around it. You too have this power. The power to let your absence speak louder than your presence. The power to let your silence dismantle their games. Every time you react, you hand over a piece of your sovereignty. Every time you justify, you give them a script to manipulate you. But what if you stopped? What if you let their words hang in the air unanswered? That is when they panic. That is when they realize they never held the power. They only held your attention. Jung called this the shadow work, the process of facing what we refuse to see in ourselves. But there is another shadow at play here, the shadow of those who rely on your reactions. When you stop feeding their drama, they are forced to confront their own emptiness, and that terrifies them. So I ask you, who in your life thrives on your emotional availability? Who grows uneasy when you stop chasing? The answers will reveal who truly values you and who merely values what you provide. There is a myth that love is proven through suffering, that devotion is measured by how much you endure. But this is not love. This is slavery. Love does not demand your depletion. Respect does not require your exhaustion. Think of the last time you prioritized yourself. How quickly were you called selfish? How swiftly were you accused of changing? This is not an indictment of you, it is an indictment of them. People who benefit from your exhaustion will always resent your peace. Machiavelli understood that power is not taken, it is surrendered. Every time you apologize for existing, you surrender. Every time you shrink to make others comfortable, you surrender. Every time you beg for basic decency, you surrender. But what if you stopped? To noise, to constant connection, instant replies, endless explanations. But silence is the ultimate rebellion. Silence is the weapon of those who no longer need to prove a thing. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." Your unavailability is not rejection, it is resurrection. It is the rebirth of your own priorities, your own time, your own soul. So let me ask you this. What would happen if, for 1 week, you stopped initiating, stopped explaining, stopped rearranging your life for those who wouldn't cross the street for you? The chaos that follows will not be yours. It will be theirs. And in that chaos, you will find something priceless, your own power. Like and subscribe if this resonates with you. The next part will delve deeper into the psychology of control and how to reclaim what's yours. The most dangerous thing you can do is become a mystery to those who thought they had you figured out. Machiavelli knew this. The prince who reveals nothing controls everything. Think of the last time someone tried to label you, to call you too sensitive or too cold. These are not truths, they are tactics. Tactics to keep you in a box they designed. But what if you stepped out of the box? What if you refused to perform? That is when the real game begins. And that is where we will go next. There is a moment, a tipping point, when indifference becomes your greatest weapon. When the absence of your reaction speaks louder than any protest. This is not passivity. This is strategy in its purest form. Machiavelli whispered this truth through the ages. The more you seem to withdraw, the more they scramble to regain control. Think of a chessboard. The player who hesitates, who overthinks, who reacts to every move, loses. But the player who sits back, who lets their opponent reveal their hand first, wins without fighting. Your silence is that same calculated pause. Your indifference is the move they never see coming. Why does this unsettle people so deeply? Because human nature craves predictability. We are conditioned to believe that love is proven through pursuit, that care is measured by how much we tolerate. But what happens when you break that script? When you refuse to perform your assigned role? That is when the masks slip. That is when their panic reveals their weakness, not yours. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. But there is another shadow at play here, the shadow of those who rely on your emotional labor. When you stop feeding their narrative, they are forced to confront their own emptiness, and nothing terrifies a manipulator more than being seen. So I ask you, who in your life depends on your reactions? Who grows uneasy when you stop dancing to their tune? The answers will shock you. History's greatest power plays were never made in the heat of emotion. They were made in the cold, quiet space between action and response. Caesar crossing the Rubicon, Napoleon retreating from Moscow, Machiavelli's prince who smiles while plotting. All understood one truth. He who controls his reactions controls the game. Now apply this to your life. That coworker who baits you into arguments. That friend who only reaches out when they need something. That partner who takes your devotion for granted. What happens when you stop rising to the occasion? when you stop giving them the emotional payoff they crave. Their confusion is your victory. Their desperation is your proof. But here's the crucial distinction. This isn't about punishing them. It's about freeing yourself. The moment you stop caring, you expose the truth that their power was never real. It was always your energy sustaining the illusion. There's a psychological phenomenon called extinction burst. When a behavior that once worked suddenly stops being rewarded, the subject escalates. They panic, they push harder, they try every trick to regain control. This is what happens when you stop caring. The guilt trips intensify. The accusations fly. You've changed, they'll say. And they're right, you have. You've changed from a reactive child into a strategic adult, from a puppet into a player. But stay steady. This storm is their death rattle, not yours. Machiavelli's most misunderstood lesson? It is better to be feared than loved. But fear isn't about cruelty, it's about unpredictability. The moment people realize they can't manipulate your emotions, their entire approach shifts. Think of a barking dog. It barks because it expects you to flinch. But when you keep walking, unfazed, uninterested, the barking loses its purpose. Your life is full of these barking dogs. The question is, when will you stop rewarding their noise with your attention?